Aloha, Pastor Gary Langley here with some advice for younger ministers because someone asked me about it this week. Asked me to let them in on the process of sermon creation more than just be sure you pray and prepare. So here are a few tips. Number one, I try to preach series messages whenever possible. It makes the studying a little bit different. It makes the studying a little bit easier, frankly, because you study one subject in depth and then you divide that up into several weeks. I keep the series 6-8 weeks at the max is kind of a good idea. Otherwise, people get bored. 12-week, 52-week sermon series get a little old. Another one is that I very often preach expository messages where I'll just go through a book of the Bible. We'll start in John chapter 1, verse 1, and we will tear John up. And in those cases, I actually spend a lot longer than a normal series. We spent 18 months in the book of John. And when we finished that, people understood John and they understood Jesus really, really well. So I tend to study in series, and I tend to preach that way. I'm a manuscript preacher. I have to write the entire sermon out. I don't read it back to the congregation, but I tend to drift off subject and go off on little rabbit trails if I don't have it very tightly. I hate to use the word scripted, but scripted. I have to write everything down. And then when I'm actually talking up in front of the people, very often the Lord will bring something to my remembrance that's not in my notes specifically, and I'll throw that in there as appropriate. But the text gives me a much better structure than just a point-by-point outline. So I tend to do that. I don't use a lot of PowerPoint because I think it makes people lazy a little bit. I don't use a lot of inserted clips. This week, just for example, the story that I'm telling is about adoption, and so I've got some really wonderful photos from a great family who are going through an adoption process right now, and I'll use those at the start of the sermon to sort of pull everyone in to the subject and get everyone on page with me. But beyond that, not much. Yeah, so just a few mechanics of the thing like that. I preach off my iPad because I don't like the pages blowing around anywhere, and so I use that. But I used to use a 3-ring binder with punched paper holes in it, so there was no chance of the pages getting out of order. And I always give a copy of that printout to the people who are running the projector at the back of the church, so that if they can occasionally put a key scripture or something on the wall. Mainly because I use the NIV when I preach, and I know a lot of people use different translations, and so I want them to be able to read the text on the wall exactly the way that I am, the way that I'm reading it, and it keeps me kind of on track, keeps me honest, and also make sure that they're using the same translation and reading that I am. So just a few ideas, and I'll throw some more in here as they come to me. Okay, aloha.